Okay, Matt, so in terms of the permaculture ethics and principles, I thought it might be useful if we just talk through how you feel growing together and trust links kind of meets those in kind of, good examples you can think of. If we take, say, the ethics of permaculture, the Earthcare, Peoplecare and Fairshares, how do you think you might be able to demonstrate that trust links meets those ethics, or embodies those ethics?
Yeah, I'd say they're central to what we do. If you think of Peoplecare, we're very much there for the people that we support, people with mental health problems, people with learning disabilities, vulnerable and disengaged children and young people. And the whole point of what we do is to improve their well-being, help towards their recovery and outcomes. This is very much sat alongside the Earthcare, so gardening being a central tool, and also kind of building using recycled materials and that sort of thing. So using the community garden we've got here in Westcliff, the other one we've got in Shoebury, the orchard that we work on, very much as a tool to support people in their development, but also so that people can learn about the environment, about gardening, horticultural skills, growing things organically, working with wildlife, working with nature. And then Fairshares is very much about working with the broader community as well as the individuals that we work with, sharing information about what we do, selling things, so selling the fruit and veg, but selling them at a fair and good price, being part of a broader community and kind of promoting equality and social justice.
Okay, thank you. And in terms of sort of, I think, sticking to the kind of David Holmgren, his kind of 12 principles of permaculture design, I thought it might be useful if we just talk through maybe some examples, like one by one, of how you feel that trust links growing together is kind of putting those principles into action. So if we take the first one, observe and interact, any examples that you can maybe give us of how that is embodied?
And very much we work with the natural environment and with the landscape that we've got. So for a recent example was the area behind the compost bins that we've got that was overgrown and had lots of old bits of wood and that sort of thing dumped on it. We identified that there was a natural landform that was a dip, sort of an amphitheatre shape, so we decided to turn that into a woodland amphitheatre area, kind of working with the natural landscape and interacting with it and then shaping it to be something that's useful and productive and, a nice reflective space for people as an outdoor classroom amphitheatre area. So that's something that's both met the needs of the people there but also maintain that kind of wooded area for the natural environment as natural habitat.
Great, sounds excellent examples there. How would you say the site or the project catch and store energy? How would you say that kind of could be exemplified?
Yeah, so the building, we've got the main building in Westcliff, has got two types of solar panels, the photovoltaic panels and the solar hot water panels. So our hot water is heated through the panels, and we also catch the energy of the sunlight for our electricity and also sell electricity back to the grid. So we get about nearly £1,000 back in money from the electricity that we sell to the grid, Southend being one of the sunniest places in the country.
Not today though.
Not today.
How about Planar Yield?
Yeah, well, there's definitely multiple yields from what we do. The most obvious one is the growing fruit and veg organically in our garden. People like to go and pick the veg. Rhubarb's doing really, really well at the moment. Broad beans, that sort of thing, have recently come up. And then selling that. But obviously we've got lots of other yields. The people literally doing the gardening benefit from learning the skills, interacting with one another, building up their self-confidence and self-esteem, and it does lead on to employment for some people, and very much a sense of social inclusion. So we kind of have a multiple yield. We also build community through people coming in, interacting with those members with mental health problems, overcoming barriers to that, and seeing the advantages of being part of a community through the gardening project.
The next principle I've got here is apply self-regulation and accept feedback.
Very much we respond to the needs of our service users, also of the broader community. We did a project last year called the Twig Project, which was very much to educate people around energy saving and working in a more efficient way. That led on to a shop, Made in Essex shop, which was selling local produce in partnership with a local firm. Unfortunately, that didn't really achieve many results because it didn't sell much. So in terms of the feedback that we were getting from that, even though a lot of people said it was a nice idea, not a lot of people were buying a lot from it, so it didn't work financially. So we took the decision to shut that shop and move on to other projects. And we've recently looked at the sales hub that we've got on site, looking at whether we can turn it into a bit more of a sort of recycling charity shop, so getting donations of books and old clothes and that sort of thing that we can then sell on to people, rather than the quite niche market that it was in terms of Essex produce.
Okay, sounds fair. Yeah, sounds good. Sounds like you kind of learned lessons from the project that wasn't an aspect of the project that wasn't really kind of working. So that sounds a really good example to me. Moving on to the next one, the use and value renewable resources.
Not a lot of stuff gets thrown away here. A lot of stuff gets used. So things like what's grown, we compost the hazel, we reuse lots of things. We've got very good compost heaps. In our new site in Shoebury-Ness, one of the first things that's been put up is the compost heaps to get that going. We're looking at whether we can use other things. Obviously we have the rainwater that we use and harvest that, and we've just put new guttering up at our site in Shoebury to capture that and put some water butts there.
Okay, and you were telling me a bit about the bees before, and what happens when there's like too many bees.
Yeah, we've got a couple of beehives at the moment. We've got one that's active and one that's died last autumn. But last year we actually had really productive. The bees were very productive. We had so many bees that one of them swarmed, and Essex bees came and took one of the hives off because basically it created an extra hive that could then be put somewhere else.
Okay. Another principle I've got here is produce no waste.
Yeah, very much using. We try to minimise what we use and recycle what we do need to recycle. So, for example, in the office we only use recycled paper, and then we save, if there's a paper that's only printed on one side, we save that paper that can be then used for sort of scrap paper for taking notes and that sort of thing. Another good example of producing no waste is where we've recently built a dead hedge, so from the old twigs and branches that were lying around, constructed that as a hedge along into the amphitheatre area, which is really nice.
Okay, so the next principle I've got here is design from patterns to details. Kind of what does that mean to you, or mean to the project, do you think?
Very much our garden design's looking at a whole site plan. For our Shoebury-Ness project we've got a big site plan that sets out the project, and then each little aspect of the project needs to be designed in more detail. So for example, we've got an acre plot there, so we've got a big concept design and we know kind of more or less where things are going, but then honing in on what we do specifically. This morning I was working with our garden coordinator there at the design of the herb garden and looking at how we can make it more interactive and how we can have sort of paths in between that provide an opportunity for people to walk around the garden and have the different sort of seasons within the herb garden. So kind of knowing what's there, and also thinking about once things are there, how it can develop, how it can evolve. Certainly in a garden and the type of work we do, nothing's stagnant. Things are always changing, and then we have to change our design depending on what we come across and what develops and what evolves.
Okay, thank you. Integrate rather than segregate. Does that kind of mean anything to you? Or what does that mean to the project, rather?
Very much about how we work together, how we cooperate, how we build a community through working together. We try to have it that everybody's working jointly together on a shared vision and shared outcomes, rather than kind of battling or having competing priorities. So it's how we choose to do that, how we try to overcome those sort of barriers that people put up, and think about where we want to go together. It's also, we're a very inclusive community, so thinking about different client groups, people with mental health needs, people with learning disabilities, people who, you know, may have barriers to work, that sort of thing, and volunteers from the community that simply want to come and help garden and help support other people. So people come together in an integrated way, kind of regardless of what their background is or their socio-economic status or their ethnicity.
Okay. So use small and slow solutions. What do you think that means to the project, within the context of this project?
Very much, we can't expect things to be put up overnight or to develop too quickly. Sometimes we have to accept that just doing little things make a big difference both to an individual's life and also to a garden. So certainly working with an individual, it'll be just getting them into the project is a massive step for some people. Getting people to think about their own needs and, you know, how they want to evolve and change. And similarly with a garden, sometimes it's kind of planting little seeds and waiting for them to come up. So for example in Shoeburyness we recently planted the hedgerow that's just little whips from the Woodland Trust, kind of waiting for them. Eventually there'll be a big hedgerow, but that will take a few years to come, so it's kind of accepting that some things take a long time to be achieved. And in our society generally today, I feel that we kind of expect everything to be there instantly and it to be fully grown, but certainly in gardening terms, but also very much in mental health terms, it's thinking about things as smaller steps that then we eventually get to the objective.
Excellent, thank you. Use and value diversity.
We try to work with people where they're at, understand where people are at, and then think about their skills and abilities and utilise those. So for example, one of our members recently was saying he didn't really want to do any more gardening, didn't like that anymore. But so we kind of looked around what else could he get involved with, and that's where we talked about the shop and focusing on how he could develop it as a charity shop and using the skills that he's got, certainly in terms of engaging people, in terms of thinking about things in a different way. So obviously we have our policies and our procedures, but it's very much about how we put them in practice and how we accept people from whatever background they've got, and then work with them and certainly utilise those skills and that diversity of abilities and talents.
Okay. Use edges and value the marginal. What do you think that means, or how does the project embody that, do you feel?
The project very much works with people from the margins of society, people that are often excluded or where there's a stigma around their situation or their needs, such as people with mental health problems. So I think increasingly we're becoming recognised as a group that does have that very strong ability to work with people who are vulnerable. We've recently done that with children and young people that are disengaged from school, and working with them to show the importance of working in a more practical way, and using their skills and valuing what they can bring to the project. Also working very much with the environmental movement in the town of Southend, so how we can kind of bring together the South East Essex Organic Gardeners Group, also working with the Transition Town in Southend, permaculture groups, those sorts of environmental groups, taking the opportunity to host them and host their meetings and kind of build a more cohesive movement by working with those groups that really are not as strong unless they work together.
Okay, and the last one of these 12, creatively use and respond to change. Do you feel that is something that this project is able to do or embodies?
I think we're always responding to change. There is so much change in sort of government policy and priorities, and it's kind of adapting what we do and what we say we do to meet those different priorities. So for example, we've recently got some funding from the Job Centre to support people to get into employment. We also get funding from the council, from health, from grant-making trusts, and some from individuals. And to each of those different audiences, we kind of have to sell what we do in a slightly different way and demonstrate how we meet their priorities. But we can also respond to the different needs of those different client groups that come through. For example, those that are referred to us from the Job Centre. We also have to respond to the needs of those that are coming in. Often they're quite complex needs, and people's needs are getting increasingly complex with the changes in the benefits and that sort of thing. So it's how we can, kind of respond to those. For example, in the spring we ran some road shows on the benefits changes, bringing in other agencies, working with them, and became a kind of leader in bringing organisations together that have clients that are affected by the changes in benefits. And that's been, we noticed that as an opportunity, something that we could do that will make a difference to those client groups and also respond to that change in policy and kind of government positioning.
Okay. And I remember before we were speaking about how you were trying to make the project more financially resilient rather than being dependent on one income stream, which was perhaps the past. Do you want us to enlarge on that a little bit?
Yeah, I suppose in the past we've been dependent on a single funder like the lottery giving us the main funding that we use to support the project. So since I've been here, we've very much looked at diversifying our funding sources, so that then if one of those funding streams drops off, we've got other funding streams that are in place. So for example, I described the Job Centre funding from the council, health, grant-making trusts, personal budgets that people come along with. So we look at all those different income streams, and by bringing all of those in together it becomes a financially viable project. If we were to rely on one, for example health, and then health restructures and then funding gets lost, it would mean the project would have to shut, which obviously benefits nobody.
Okay, the project hosted a Permaculture Design Course back in 2011. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that and how useful that was to the project or to you personally, or or your experience generally of that permaculture course.
Yeah, that was a really good course hosted here. It gave us a really good opportunity to understand about permaculture and all the different aspects related to it. A lot of the people that were on the course are still connected with the project in some way, so one of them that was on the course has since become a trustee here. Another one has got a job here. Other people are already engaged with the project here, so that's been really nice to have that connection with local people and to strengthen that with some individuals from the course. And one of the key benefits was looking at the design of the garden, looking at the design of the projects and how we could shape those. So part of the course was using a design project, and we chose to focus that on this project and use that to think through the benefits of various routes. So one of them was doing a cafe, for example, so we've used that in the way that we develop our thinking around a cafe here in the Growing Together project. It's really good to engage with people from different community groups as well. So we have people from a range of organisations in Southend, as well as people from London and Kent and sort of North Essex. So it's provided a strength of linkages across to other community groups that's kind of evolved and developed in the couple of years after the project, after the design course. It's also provided us with an ability to embed permaculture within the practice, and we certainly wouldn't be doing the land project had we not done the Permaculture Design Course. It certainly has given me the tools and the language to be able to articulate what we do from a permaculture perspective, and also very much shaped our design and our delivery. Creating a kind of a richer project, more depth to what we do. And it's interesting with the gardening work, we partly have to follow the RHS garden approach, because that is part of what's taught on the horticultural courses that are taught here. But we also have our forest garden, and we do talk about the permaculture approach and no-dig approach and that sort of thing. And there's quite a lot of interplanting, and we use that in the way that we talk about garden design and garden development, as well as very much thinking about the people and how we work with the people, and the people being a priority of the project.
Great, thank you very much, and thank you for your time.
Okay.
Cheers.